has worked with Amazon.com as program manager for merchant and product quality operations. Shelly has dabbled into entrepreneurship as well, where she successfully started and ran a community salon network for women entrepreneurs. Having created high performance teams in her venture, Shelly is currently building innovative solar products for urban homeowners. Shelly holds an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and has done a BTech from IIT Dhanbad. Welcome to this webinar, Shelly.
Thanks a lot, Shankaransh.
Thank you.
Looking forward to hearing
Sorry,
your
go
ideas.
ahead. Yeah, thank you. So moving on, we have Mr. Kawarjeet Singh with us. Kawarjeet is head of operation and maintenance and service delivery for all the three BUs, that is commercial and industrial, residential and rural, for the company distributed over 15 states. In this capacity, he is responsible for the complete operations of all the solar assets of the company and ensuring the maintenance schedules to prevent breakdowns and maximize revenue for the company. In his 2 decades plus with Indian Army, he has tenanted various appointments with MRO, O&M, and manufacturing units, including a stint with United Nations as CTO of the UN mission in Sudan. Kawarjeet is a silver medalist in BTech electronics from JNU and gold medalist in MTech from the Military College of Electronics and Mechanical Engineering, and did his business management from IIM Ahmedabad post retiring from the Army. Thank you so much, Mr. Kawarjeet, for joining this webinar.
Thanks, Shankaransh. I truly don't deserve those words, but thank you so very much.
That's all the facts that I'm talking about, nothing else. Thanks again, Kawarjeet. Next, we have on our panel Mr. Piyush Srivastav from Tata Power Solar. Piyush is a professional working in the renewable energy domain for a decade. His on-job training in solar cell technology and utility scale power plant performance improvement has cultivated a deep interest in the sector. His alma mater, Tel Aviv University, Israel, has taught him the skills that have helped him to develop a recently patent pending algorithm using advanced analytics. He believes this would bring value in this sector and to his current organization, Tata Power Solar Systems Limited, where he works as a lead analyst. Welcome to this webinar, Piyush.
Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush. And our last panelist is Mr. Ashutosh Singh from Acme. He's currently working as a senior manager, asset management team at Acme. Ashutosh holds an electronics and communication degree and has over 9 years of experience in the renewable energy sector. He has played a key role in the development of portfolio level digitization, IoT implementation, performance improvement plan, forecasting and scheduling process implementation, different SCADA packages, and new technologies development in various companies. Thank you and welcome, Ashutosh, to this webinar.
Yeah, thanks.
Last but not the least, we have our moderator for today's panel discussion, Mr. Subramaniam Pulipaka, famously known as Subbu in the solar industry. So I'll go with Subbu. So Subbu is the youngest Chief Executive Officer of the National Solar Energy Federation of India. He is the recipient of BRICS Energy for Thought Young Scientist Award in 2018. Previously, he was the co-founder and CEO of Soreva Energy, one of the 10 energy startups representing India at RISE 2017 in Hong Kong. Subbu is one of the 50 young Indian CEOs shortlisted for the Global Entrepreneur Summit in 2017 in Hyderabad, which was chaired by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, and Ms. Ivanka Trump, advisor to the President of United States of America. Well, as of today. Subbu has been involved in active research on the reliability of solar photovoltaics for the last 4 years and was one of the youngest researchers to represent India at many international forums. It is our pleasure. Thank you so much, Subbu, for joining this webinar, and we welcome you as a moderator in today's session.
Thank you very much, Shankaranch. The pleasure is all mine. I'm looking forward to moderate this highly illustrious panel today.
Thank you. Thank you, Subbu. So before we start this webinar, I would request Neeraj to pull up the first poll. And it's a very quick poll just to for us to get a feel of who our attendees are. So Neeraj, if you could pull the first poll for us. And Neeraj, maybe in another 5-8 seconds, you can finish the poll and publish the result, please. I think Neeraj is good. We can publish the results. Okay, so we have a good distribution of participants. Around 1/3, 30% of the participants are either EPCs or IPPs in the solar industry. The second highest is there are 25% people who have joined from the solar analytics domain, 20% from others, 15% from monitoring and diagnostics. We have people joining in who are OEMs and also investors in the industry. So thank you everyone for joining, and that is a great mix because I think the discussions today is for each and every one of you, all the stakeholders within the industry. So thanks a lot. All right, moving on. Before we start our panel discussion, I'll do a very quick presentation on Smart Helio. Is my screen visible? Subbu, is it visible?
Yeah, I can see it. We can see
Okay,
it.
perfect, perfect. So thanks again, everyone. We'll just have a very quick presentation on Smart Helio. We are the ones organizing this webinar. Smart Helio is a Swiss-based company, and we focus on AI-based data analytics of solar PV plants. And our main goal is to maximize the ROI and automate the decision-making for various stakeholders within the solar industry. A little bit of the background of the company. So Smart Helio was founded in 2019 in Lausanne, Switzerland. Currently, we have 5 advisors who are renowned industry veterans. We have the ex-CEO of Meyer Burger. We have ex-director of the Swiss Federal Energy Agency. We have executives from Schneider Electric who are our advisors. Our team mostly comprises of PhD and master's graduates from top Indian, European, and US universities. In just 1 year, we have raised an investment of over $1 million. We have a clientele of 20+ rooftop commercial and industrial IPPs and 15+ utility scale players across the globe. So looking at our global footprint, currently we have 30+ partners in North America, Europe, Middle East, and Asia. In past 1 year, we have analyzed approximately 1.5 gigawatts of solar assets, including energy storage. And we are a truly global team. My colleagues, we come from India, Switzerland, Germany, France, Italy, Portugal, and the US. We have been very fortunate to have been recognized by various industry leaders and organizations in past 1 year. Our founder, Govinda Upadhyay, is a Forbes 30 under 30 awardee, and our IoT sensor is labeled by the prestigious Solar Impulse Foundation as among the top 1,000 solutions in the world that will help accelerate SDG 7. We received a particular research and development grant from the Swiss government, wherein we partnered with 3 leading R&D institutes in Europe who are helping develop our technology, both our IoT sensor and our AI-based cloud platform. We are members of some prestigious organizations who mentor us and guide us and help us do networking at the right place. So why do we exist, and what problem are we trying to tackle? So what we see largely that there are 3 big problems within the industry right now. Largely, our operations and maintenance of the solar plants is very reactive. We take action after a particular error or fault has occurred, which leaves us low to no room to recover any recoverable losses. And then once a fault has occurred, the steps to rectify the fault or even to identify and localize the fault is a highly manual process that includes that demands indulgence of various stakeholders, from asset managers to O&M managers to the on-staff ground, which consumes a lot of time and effort in trying to upkeep the solar system. And last but not the least, the third one is a big one, that in our solar industry, we do have a lot of data, but all the data are disconnected. The data points do not talk to each other. And basically, we are talking about 3 different data sets: the data which is pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction. Since these data points are not connected, the decision making is not automated. So we are able to make less decisions, and we are slower in making our decisions. And this is the problem that Smart Helio is trying to solve. So here we'll look at what exactly are we doing. So as we discussed that we have partnered with 3 research institutes in Europe. We, in collaboration with the research institutes, we have developed AI models. What these AI models do, that they track how the voltage and the current of different strings or MPPTs they are changing within the plant, and every change over time of voltage and current corresponds to a particular problem, and that's what our AI modules are able to catch and tell exactly what the problem the plant is facing. Our AI modules are trained with over a decade of real solar PV and weather station data. So what we offer is we have a cloud platform where we take, as we are talking about, the disconnected data. We take all the disconnected data, we do a seamless integration of those data with our cloud platform, and the data comes from various different sources. Then we perform the data analytics. If prompted by our AI engine that there is some level of panel level analytics that we need to add to the existing analytics, then we also go and install our Helio Health sensors to the plant that gives us panel level data. And using a combination of these 2, the data coming from the existing monitoring portals, complemented by the panel level data that comes from our sensor, we generate analytics report. In this report, what we do is we tell you what the problem is, where the problem is, how and when to handle the problem, what are the problems that might be coming. So we predict the problem, and then also on a quarterly and half-yearly basis, we generate business insights custom tailored to our partners. So diving deep into our AI engine and see how we really function is the input set comes from any data logger, any inverter or SCADA system. Then we can complement that string level or MPPT level data with our sensors panel level data. We collect data from other sensors. It could be your irradiation sensor, it could be a dust sensor, temperature sensor, and so on and so forth. We typically take 12 months of historic data that helps our AI modules and machine learning modules to learn the historic behavior and performance of the plant. And then we also take the pre and the post construction data from the design considerations to the maintenance data. Now, all of this goes into a hidden layer, and all of the input parameters talk to each of these hidden layers, where we first sanitize the data. We recognize the patterns of the plant. Then our AI modules map that which pattern corresponds to what kind of problem. And eventually, as we keep feeding the data into our AI engine, the machine learns itself and starts predicting the faults that might come. And all of this translates into a very action-oriented data analytics report that we generate. Now, where our solution fits, I think every single one of you who has joined the call would be able to relate that most of the existing technologies that we have currently, they give us two options. First is descriptive, what happened, wherein a data logger takes the data and simply displays the data in really good fancy graphs on a monitoring portal. The next step is there are some companies who are providing diagnostic where you could have an alert-based mechanism to know what the fault is and what actions to take. Where we come in is we are trying to increase the level of the business impact and automate the decision-making process by diagnosing the problems, predicting the problems, and telling you exactly what to do so that you can optimize your time. In lesser time, you can make more and much efficient decisions for your business. One of our key USPs, as we spoke about our panel level IoT sensors. So what they do is they give us more insights as to how the performance of panels are affecting the performance of the plant. Because usually with a typical monitoring or a SCADA system, the best information or the most granular information that we are able to collect is at string level. So complementing that with panel level data enhances our analytical abilities for our clients. As we spoke, the ultimate goal is to maximize the return on investment on your plans. How do we do it? By first optimizing your operation and maintenance, by localizing the faults and telling you exactly what to do. Apart from that, we are trying to help the industry move from a fixed schedule-based maintenance to a need-basis dynamic maintenance schedule. We also generate business insights wherein we do a lot of things, including comparing the performance of the products, benchmarking the performance of a particular equipment or a particular plant by comparing its performance by, let's say, other inverters or other strings within the plant, and also doing an overall plant comparison with the neighboring plants. That's how we do our benchmarking, and we suggest best practices to our clients, and we help in capacity building, wherein we have launched our own in-house Helio Learn app that is mostly for the on-ground staff, wherein they could see video lessons of how to rectify a particular fault in their own local languages. So yeah, overall, starting from the O&M to the investors, we provide decision-making tools aided by AI. And last but not the least, for all the attendees who are currently attending this webinar, we have an offer. We are offering 50% off on our plant diagnostic service. We'll take 12 months of your historic data and provide data analytics to your plant. For that, there is a small requisite, which is you would have to go onto our website, and we are launching a new product. It will take not more than a minute or two to fill out your opinion. So if you could please do that and avail this offer, that would be awesome. Thank you so much for patiently listening to this presentation. And we have one more quiz before we jump on to our panel discussion headed by Subbu. So Neeraj, please, if you could launch the next poll. Thank you. We will wait for another 5-7 seconds, and then Neeraj, you can display the results. Okay, I think our panelists have a lot to share here, because a mopping 47% faced trouble in monitoring the plant and managing the existing issues. Um, and then the next in line, we have unavailability of remote services. So probably if someone's monitoring went down, they were not able to see what the problem is, or probably they were not even able to know if there are any more problems occurring in the plant. We have 35% people who talked about that they face difficulty because of reliance on manual O&M practices. I think, Mr. Kawaji, this goes right up your alley. And we also have people who face difficulty in not being able to meet their contractual production estimates. And there are 18% people who had other issues. Thank you so much, Neeraj, for coordinating this poll. Subbu, all yours, please take on from here.
Thank you very much, Shankranch, for your presentation. And I personally believe, apart from outlining the features of your product, you also set the context for this panel discussion, thereby making my job easier. Before proceeding further in the panel discussion, I would like to add a few things further to what you heard from Shankranch. Being at NSCFI, interacting with industry stakeholders almost 20 to 23 hours a day, we encounter a lot of, I won't say problems, but possible areas of improvement in the solar industry sector. Most of the times, I can categorize these problems under three categories. One is the policy, the second one is the economics, and third is the technology. We can nickname it as PET. Now, I think today's panel discussion, I hope, we'll try to take it in the same direction while covering all the three aspects of digitization and automation in solar industry post-COVID. But I would also like to suggest a slight change in the title of our discussion. COVID is anyhow here to stay. So what we can try to modify it is digitization and automation post lockdown, or digitization automation post the onset of COVID, so that all of us are clear on, we are not giving any false hope for either COVID to go or digitization to come faster before COVID goes. With this, I think the context has been set very well. Over the last 8 years, when we look at India's solar proliferation journey, just like other countries or regions like EU or Australia, or as a matter of fact, the United States, the appetite for digitization and automation in any industry evolves over a period of time. And I'm very happy today we have all the four my fellow panelists who belong to that evolution curve of growing appetite for digitization in Indian solar context. Of course, not to mention Smart Helio. And today we'll try to understand from them what it means to actually digitize India's solar asset management and what it means to actually automate the erstwhile manual practices in the Indian context. Most of the companies in today's call, I think all the companies in today's call are NSCFI members. So technically I'm on duty when I'm talking to all of you. And all of you, all my fellow panelists have also been part of NSCFI's best practices guidelines for O&M, where we have very much emphasized on digitization or digitization of asset management automation. So without much delay, since we are talking about Sun, I want to start with Sun Edison, Mr. Kavarjit, on how do you see the way digitization has evolved with respect to the mundane erstwhile conventional practices in solar plant administration? I know, as a matter of fact, Sun Edison is one of the founding members of NSCFI. You've been there for a long time in the industry, not only India, but globally. For a company like Sun Edison, understanding the global trends, applying them in Indian context, now since you're intensively exploring and extending your portfolio in the distributed solar segment, how do you see that evolution of appetite in the Indian context?
Thanks so very much, Subbu. First and foremost, I'll only state that the COVID in itself was a challenge, which pushed us. What technology would have done to us maybe in a decade or less than that, or maybe half a decade, we've managed to do it in about 8-9 years. The industry in 8-9 months, the entire industry has moved ahead. Now, if we come back to our practices, which were already there, we were highly reliant on manual systems for our day-to-day, the plant monitoring and the routine that we follow there, the management of our solar assets. We were highly dependent on doing that entire thing by manual means, by sending people there, by having, personnel deployed all along the plants. I'm talking about distributed solar assets with a lesser bias towards the utility sector. Sun Edison, as it is more into rooftop segment, and now we're getting into residential segment, and we are on a trajectory on our way to become the largest distributed solar company in the country, hopefully within a very short span of time. So you see, we use the deployment of the cleaning teams between various distributed solar assets. The breakdown management was a very, very, very big challenge. The operations of these plants, monitoring their performance at all the times, it became a very big challenge with the outset of the COVID lockdown in March. And this pushed us as to why do we need all this? Where do we look at, how do we evolve ourselves? And it brought us some very, very, very interesting questions. And we could see clearly that which way are we headed? And whole lot of operational changes that we done, whether it was going from hired people to contracted labor, depending more on local resources, or getting into means of I'm talking of very, very mundane things. Firstly, getting into means of monitoring, such as putting CCTV cameras in all our assets. We started development of certain apps which we have deployed in the field management of our distributed assets, which we pass on. These are Android apps which we pass on to the teams that we hire to manage our things, so that we can come to know what is there. We were forced to get into finding, rather than having fixed schedule of maintenance, cleaning, etc., looking at dynamic, where I think Smart Helio helped us a lot. They were the ones who we started working with, and they somehow managed to drive this point down us that we need to look at that system, wherein we have a very, very dynamic system wherein we get the cleaning done when it is required, when we get the PM done in most of the cases when it is required, rather than having a fixed schedule for everything. And of course, changing the whole dynamics of our operational paradigm of solar plant management. The digitization, as I see, is leading us to kind of I'll say there were two major highlights when I read the first poll answers or the survey poll answers of the first poll. I realized that most of the people here are from remote diagnostics background, and of course the biggest challenges which came out in the second poll are monitoring and management and manual O&M practices. So where does that lead us to? It clearly leads us to the convergence of these functions into the O&M. That is the way forward. I mean, that is something that none of us can wish away. Most of the companies like ours have already set their foot. I'll say some part has been achieved by some of the companies, but going ahead, that is only going to be the way. And in a way, it is very, very good, because the O&M and solar businesses as such tearing at its margins with very, very wafer thin you see value which are available. The costs are extremely high in the current models. That is the only the digitization is the only way forward to keep this business profitable, effective, and to be able to maintain our solar assets for the lifespan of 25 years, which we currently follow. And of course, going ahead, China is already looking at 30 and beyond. So those are my views, Subbu.
No, thank you very much for your views. In fact, I very much like the way you use the word convergence, and the truest, manifestation of digitization and automation is its convergence into the current way of the way we operate and maintain plants. Now, switching on your same subject, I would now like to uh, take from where you left and pose this question to another large scale developer whose name cannot be missed when you talk about distributed solar in India. And coincidentally, or fortunately, they are also the chair of NSCFI's rooftop task force. We have Miss Shaili from Amplus, and she is representing their business unit of Homescape. So, Miss Shaili, all of us understand Amplus is one of the largest portfolio holder when it comes to distributed solar in India. And especially from my personal opinion, I think you are in the most trickiest spot when it comes to the digitization and automation for O&M, because most of the times the approach of Amplus is on OPEX or RESCO models when it comes to C&I segment. And of course, now in Homescape also you're entering into the B2C segment, which demands more accountability. So I have two questions for you. One, as Homescape, which is directly a B2C segment, which is, and I have no problem in stating this, that the B2C solar segment in India is highly underrated and overlooked segment. So belonging to that, catering that segment, how do you see the importance of this digitization and automation? And I would like to continue the question by asking, what sort of contrast is there when you cater B2C versus B2B?
Thanks, Subbu, and thanks, Smart Helio, for giving me this opportunity. And rightly put, Subbu, the B2C business segment in India in solar is the most challenging, most unorganized sector, I would say, apart from we are talking about other industries also, where the consumer businesses have an edge over any B2B business. In this case, since it's the nature of the business where it involves both product plus service, the scale of this business has not yet arrived, and that's why we are seeing a lot of smaller players in the market, and owing to probably the trust or the durability of the solutions that they are providing, consumers are not able to be bullish on this industry, I would say. So traditionally, we have seen solar as a very investment oriented product, but the shift that probably we have to see or we have to observe is being a more consumer oriented industry now. Since residential, the adoption, it largely depends on the consumer choice. Solar being a very low involvement product. I mean, for a consumer to buy a product, he has to be involved in that. And right now, he's seeing it as an investment solution only. For that, that is the main reason they want the solar product to be as cheap as possible, and so that they can get high ROI. And that is the main reason they are foregoing the quality issues and the durability issues of the whole product we speak today. Now, there are multiple challenges definitely to make this industry organized. One would be, yes, policy, as you said. The policy issues are still out there largely, but to some extent, if we as a company would like to solve something, would be the technology part, so that at least the end-to-end consumer journey from making a decision to maintaining a plant, it is seamless through the power of technology. And where we can pitch in, how we have done it, I believe that I've divided the whole consumer journey into three parts. One is pre-sales, one is during the plant installation phase, and the third is post installation phase. During the pre-sales period, it is very important that the consumer goes through all the aspects of making a proper product decision. And that comes from awareness, interest, desire, and action. All these four parameters, if they are met by a vendor or by any other agency in the market, consumer will have an ease to go with the product. And largely, we are standing right now at the first point itself, the awareness portion, where the awareness of the solar product, what are the benefits, what is a grid connected solution, what is a battery operated solution, that itself is limited in the minds of the consumer. So tackling the first one would be a major challenge, and that can be successfully done through technology if we follow some major digital platforms across digital marketing like Google, etc., and YouTube, etc., where content management of all the different information pieces, like how net metering is done, how a solar plant is installed, what are its components, it can be easily delivered to the consumer so that they adopt and they get information from there. Secondly, in terms of making a decision and creating a desire in the minds of the consumer, there is another aspect where technology can pitch in, would be how to develop innovative products for the consumers. We have developed a solution taking care of the market that since a residential consumer, they are not physically involved with the product, how to make solar as a product where they can sit beneath that and have a conversation. And I know that this is a very unique product it would be, where I'm talking about a solar pergola kind of a solution, where India is considered as a country where a lot of people, they spend a lot of their time on their rooftops, and developing such kind of a solution would actually make them proud of that. And how we can do that? By developing strong structures through the help of design and engineering, and definitely all the norms that will be followed, which are given by the regulatory authorities like wind load, etc. Following these norms and developing that product, and then creating that desire in the minds of the consumers that this product is going to be something which not only provides practically free electricity, but also an aesthetic aspect on their rooftop, which is not going to, I would say, ruin their facade to some extent, and they'll be happy to go for it. So that is one area where we played. Now, the other aspect about technology where I'll pitch in, where we solve some major issues during installation and post-installation phase was the monitoring part, where involvement also comes through whether my plant is generating enough, whether my plant is, whether the generation that I'm getting, I'm utilizing it enough or not. And all these aspects consumer looks for and seeks every day. And that's where an app, which gives an overall feedback on how the plant is performing, when does the plant requires cleaning, the triggers on the basis of breakdown maintenance or a downtime, if they are given to the consumer at the right time, the consumer can act on it quickly. All these aspects can actually make a consumer involved with the product, and hence these issues of post-installation durability or post-installation like maintenance issues, they will not come in future, because in that case the customer will be involved in it, and they would want to maintain the plant for a longer duration. So talking about these few issues, I would say they are still going to be there in the industry for next 2 or 3 years. But yes, in a way, we are solving those challenges through technology itself by providing data analysis and quick preventive notifications to the consumer so that they can act quickly. And to your second question, Subbu, how being at Amplus, where we have seen both B2B and B2C side of the business, yes, I would say the B2B for us has been quite, I would say for past 5 or 6 years, we have been a pioneer in premium B2B solutions for marquee consumers, clients. We have clients ranging from, I would say, Whirlpool or Yamaha, and in the pharma itself, we have Cipla. And their challenges are different all along. We tried solving them through analytics and proper data acquisition. Maybe it is the generation part, the DG sync or zero evacuation, or also the irradiance part, where we can actually monitor when the plant is going to get shut down or plant is not delivering. These all aspects we have developed quite well in our past 5 or 6 years. Now, the same learning, if I would say, if we would want to adopt in the consumer business, it was a challenge, definitely, because of the segregated and more fragmented nature of the business. But the major challenge that we actually faced was the customer acquisition part. For us, in our B2B business, it is more of a long tail, or I would say a long lead solution that we offer. We have the luxury of providing a solution within a time period of 4 to 5 months. But in residential, the customer expectations are definitely different, but the timelines are still the same because of a lot of other policy issues. So there we have found us in a slightly tricky situation where the customer acquisition and satisfaction is going to be a major challenge in terms of B2C as compared to B2B. That's it from my side.
I think you've given a very a detailed and comprehensive overview, and the main takeaway, according to me, where we have to juxtapose automation and digitization, at least in the B2C segment, is for the seamless experience or seamless process for the consumer. Now, I've strategically divided the panel myself into distributed and utility, That's why I wanted to approach Tata and Acme at the end. And uh, I'll start with Tata for the second phase of my questions. And at the end, we'll have a small exercise where we'll involve all four panelists also. But Mr. Piyush, you have walked the talk when it comes to analytics. As your fellow AI engineer, I myself have spent sleepless nights and sleepy days crunching hundreds of thousands of data samples and processing algorithms, which I am sure now Smart Helio does it in a very uh, fashionably seamless way. What I want to ask you, or what I think our attendees want to know from you, is Tata as a brand is a well-known brand. Tata Power Solar is again a well-established player in the Indian solar market. Uh, while many people think Tata Power Solar is only in residential segment, as a matter of fact, I very well know Tata has also significant installed capacity in large-scale solar plants. Now you have two uh, roadmaps, or you should have two ways of approach when you see utility scale automation digitization there, rooftop scale automation digitization there. And I'm not saying just because you're here, but there are very few companies who have attained or who have ensured solar will become a commodity in India, and I think Tata Power Solar is one of them. uh, and I mean, not to mention other companies present in this call. So when you have extensively made solar as a commodity in one segment and building portfolio on the other side, how are you able to, one, use data for your advantage, and second, which is a common point I want to ask all of you, is this a very concept of digitization and automation? How does it transform from the utility scale to the rooftop segment, according to you?
Thanks, Evo. So for a nice introduction about the company, really thank. You have rightly mentioned that Tata Power is six time the number one player in rooftops, and we hold a capacity of around more than 2 gigawatt plus in utility scale, and the largest capacity is near to Bangalore in Pavgada. We have large occupation in Badla, Rajasthan also. So coming directly to your questions, how we are using the data for taking the advantage. So yes, since the portfolios are increasing quite at the rate of 3x, 4x, 5x now, we are projecting 5x growth this year. So the use of data is very important. 2 years back, the management was little reluctant to get into this domain, because it was the impression that we have been in solar for 25-30 years and we know everything. And actually, yeah, we have a good experience, but we cannot rely on what we only know in our heads. It has to be a process driven, where the data can be utilized, and any newcomer who joins the organization at any stage knows what is there and how to move from that level. So the journey of Tata in utilizing the data was very mundane, I will say. It was like, we started 2 years back. Around 2 years back, I was leading that team where we were trying to do only near real-time monitoring. There was no real-time monitoring. We were not focusing on real-time monitoring because, as you all know, the sites are very remote. And first of all, the connectivity issue is the main thing. If you want to access the data for a real time, you would have to have data streaming, and remote sites are a problem. So you first get a lease line, and also all these things, infrastructure issues, I did not want to get into without any demonstration of the results. So what we did, we started doing a near real-time monitoring. What we used to do, you all also have it. Every end of the day, you get a lot of Excel sheets downloaded from the SCADA into your mailbox. So this was the only manual process which we were having, and that is why I am saying it near real-time monitoring, because you get the data today, and at the end of the day and in your mailboxes, and that's it. Everything is being taken care by the code and algorithm and SMS and WhatsApp and mail service. The data will be, all the sheets will be pulled up from the mailboxes automatically. There is no manual interruption till you receive the SMS. After you receive the SMS, you have a highlight of the plant that these strings are not performing since morning, because we are monitoring a near real time. So from morning to, if some string or something goes bad in the morning, only at the evening I'm going to get to know. So at least, so this helped us to reduce our MTTR drastically, because normally you see the cleaning cycles or the maintenance cycles has a schedule. So you follow that schedule, and in between that, those schedules, you do not touch those equipments unless there is a big blunder over there. So we are not talking about big blunders, because big blunders are very much obvious, and we do not concentrate much on analytics because it is very much obvious. It is only for predictions. For day-to-day problem solvings, we were focusing on these things, which gave a huge, which hit basically the bottom lines of the company. That was one thing. And the byproduct of this analysis, using the data, gave many new learnings to us. We got into revising the contracts by convincing the third party customers based on data, and that happened. We revised the contracts, they agreed. We redesigned our some of the designs, which we, because in PVC is a tool which gives you simulation. So we have found many lacunae in this simulation, which on ground it misses. So we, with the help of this data, we could find out what in engineering we should consider on ground. And those learnings, as O&M teams, performance analysts, we have given a feedback to the engineering team that in the next project, please consider this. And they are considering it, and our contractual agreement started becoming very much in line. Our performance is kind of improved. MTTR is coming down. Our part management is very much in place. So now, after seeing this, and all this infrastructure creation took a, I would say, if you compare with the improvements, it was like 1% of that of the revenues which we generated. So it was like almost nil expenditure. Now, since we have shown the results, our top management from the board level, I'm talking, they are now very much interested into real-time monitoring. So to further drill down the MTTRs, to predict the faults which may forthcome. So this is one learning, and in last 2 years, how we utilize the data, what advantages we have fetched. We have built algorithms. I filed patents in a which is pending. Recently we filed, so that algorithm helps to fine tune and factor off all the obvious problems which are there, and then still try to find out the exact problems so that we can pinpoint and correct it immediately. So that algo helps in that. Now, so our management now wants to go for a real time monitoring, so that we can know how we are doing in real time. The problem for prediction, which I was involved in the team, this is my day job also. So the problem which as a industry which we are facing, I suppose, we have IEC standards. IEC standards give us many things, like what cell should be, what module should be, how the performance you should monitor. So similar kind of standards we should have in data, what kind of data we should monitor. Because I was working for some prediction problem in inverter faults last month with some team members, and we found that the data which we need actually for that kind of predictions, we do not gather that data at all. In fact, it is available for last 6-7 years. The data has been there, but it is not arranged so that we can directly tap in and use it and predict it. So we have to learn those things, that what is important as an industry, because some learnings I may have some learnings, my other fellow panelists may have. So we should have come to some standards where we, because it is going to benefit the industry as a whole. And I would say the solution providers like Smart Helio or any other XYZ, they should they should be the integrators, because they talk to many industries, they know many problems, and they should kind of standardize what kind of data we must collect so that the future problems, because now industry is moving towards predictions and uh, forecasting. So I think that is a key step now in making the data more hygienic and more available, so that these two things which are forthcoming can be plugged easily, which I'm facing now. I have take as a team, we have taken the action already to manage that. But over a long portfolio or larger portfolio, we should think in that direction also, to have some standards like IC standards. I said. So at last, I would like to close. Like I started 10 years back in solar, around 12 years back, and now I'm achieving a sainthood, and the sainthood here is solar augmented by intelligence. So that stands for saint. So now I'm going to be a saint, so because I want to improve the solar by augment the solar by intelligence. This is now our mantra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Piyush. And once you have achieved sainthood, I hope you can also induct fellow veterans like me also into the same sainthood. uh, and I think you have given a very, I mean, in fact, you opened up a very big Pandora box when it comes to hygienic data. And even Shankranch in his presentation also said they will sanitize the data. I know these adjectives are because of the current COVID, we are using hygienic and sanitization. But I can really understand and relate to how what you're referring to, and the exact data points that you are talking about forecasting. On that note, I think we have Mr. Ashutosh, who is the right person to answer this question. In fact, ACME is one of the largest IPPs in the country. Uh, they are the topmost, I think they're number 2 or number 3 in the world when it comes to the EPCs. As NSCFI, we are very proud to have them as our members, founding members, in fact. So, Mr. Ashutosh, you're being part of NCFI's initiatives on O&M best practices, where we also talked about this forecasting and scheduling. Uh, Building upon what Mr. Piyush said, as a portfolio holder of large scale solar plants and utility scale plants, uh, what is your approach when it comes to the forecasting part? Because today, the reason I don't get more than 4 hours of a sleep is because of the DSM regulations, which are highly varied in different states. We put off a fire in Gujarat, there is another fire in Tamil Nadu with a new regulation. We put off that fire, there is a new regulation in Punjab. And by the time we solve that, there is a new regulation in Uttar Pradesh. So in a highly dynamic federal structure like India, where states have their own jurisdiction on some of these policies, which directly impact your transition or your appetite for digitization and automation. As ACME, what has been your stance? What is your stance when it comes to adopting this, practicing this, and ensuring that irrespective of the dynamic policy scenario or regulatory scenario, you are staying sane with the same digital or automation background or backbone that you have?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Subbu, for the introduction and details. So I will start with the very base, like even for the forecasting scheduling also, for us it was Chhattisgarh when it was started in a commercial implication and the formal as well. But before that, we started the developing the tools or forecasting solutions for across our portfolio. Either the sites have the or the state have the commercial implication or not, but we started building the model to learn with the data set of the historical and the real time integration of it. So for that, the for any kind of digitization, the basic thing is like your source data. The source data means the basic instrument or architecture which are connected with your field devices. Either it is PLC or SCADA, which is connected with your inverters or the weather station or any field equipment like a string or energy meters or other transformer, other equipments. So those systems would be very robust and reliable in terms of their availability or connectivity. There should be redundancy with it. We taken always a redundant system with two server and client combination. And the second part is like if you see, you can't make a uniform system across all your sites. There will be different in technology. Either some will come in PLC based, later on it was micro SCADA based, some will come embedded based, there are some IoT based devices as well. So somehow you have to make a uniform platform from where you can connect all the data to a central location, so that there should not be a different kind of protocol or IEC methodology is required to connect with the data. So for that, we have taken a OPC server with each of the SCADA. Either it was a 2011 commissioned site or a newly commissioned site, we have OPC server mandatory with each of the SCADA. Either it is supplied by a X, Y, or a G company. So that, and each and every data point should be visible on that OPC server. Always the database, like you should always try to make the database as a open source, so that your internal team or in case of any integration, you can connect with that database. It should not be a like a kind of proprietary based where you can't even connect or take any data or anything if required. Once that OPC thing is, or any open protocol is there, either it is API based or a one-way FTP based or OPC based or IEC based or Modbus based, you can connect with each of your system. Then second part is like your internet connectivity. As Piyush or somebody has told, like the sites at remote locations, so there is challenges with the internet. Obviously there are challenges with the internet at sites because it's remotely connected. So then you have to develop you have to explore the system, like on which internet I'm going for. Either it is MPLS based or VSAT based. All the sites should be connected with the central locations, and the policy of cyber from the should be driven from a central location. It should not be a site based controlled cyber security, so that your data security is another part which we have to ensure. So like once all these sites are connected with the central location, then the OPC or any medium which you are using should have the capability to even store the data in case of any outage, because you can't ensure 24 by 7 internet connectivity at site. In case of because of any issue, if internet is not available for a span of let's say 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours, then there should be a storage facility within the system, and it should auto send the data when the connectivity is stabilized. So for forecasting also, we developed these things. The philosophy of the architecture was already in place. We started the forecasting things with the neural network or with the data algorithm for all sites. The challenging part in India is like we can distribute in two parts. One is regulatory challenge. That is like you can't revise more than 16 times. For solar, let's say more than 8 times. There may be delay between one revision to another revision, 1 hour and 30 minutes. The cloud will not give us a time to make it a revision or a pre-alarm to change the schedule. So somehow these are the practical challenge which you have to see. There are sudden transit cloud basis the location of the plant. Is this a nearby a coastal region or a midway of the country? So that cloud, and the transit cloud also varies. If the plant is let's say in acres of area, there are a sudden cloud which is developed and its impact your generation. So the second part is the monsoon season. For catering, if you see, the overall penalty can be easily distributed in three parcels. One is because of regulatory constraint, because I was not able to revise the schedule because of this limitation of the number of revisions or the time difference between two revisions. Second part of the 3 months or 4 months of the monsoon. If you accumulate these will be around 75 to, let's say, 80%. I'm just taking a number, but it should be more than 60% at least. Balance 30 to 40% of the balance 8 to 9 months of period. So for this catering this monsoon season period, you need to have a very good cloud motion vector models, which can be linked with your on-site or some satellite imaginary, wind speed, wind direction, and cloud movement. For that also, we placed some of the devices of the cloud images at some of the sites, and we are doing the trial for that also. And we are in process to develop, and somehow in some sites we are achieving that also. So it makes the accuracy level is good, because now it is a 15%, for some state it is even 7%. Later on, we don't know where it will go or in what percentage it can convert. So that thing we have to make sure and ensure. And as far as digitization perspective, like nowadays you have to have a full control of each and every data points. Like suddenly since March, like there was a lockdown, complete lockdown, when everything is like turned off. But being a power producer, we have to work, we have to generate the electricity, and we have to know what exactly the problem our people are facing at site. And when you are operating a sites in range of 50 to 60 node, and in capacity is even more than 2.5 or 2.6 gigawatt, you have to know every point of time or every day what was the generation of each of my plants, what was the breakdown, how much was the irradiance, where there is a lagging, where I need to take support or I need to provide the support to our people. So for that also you have to take the data. See, like since starting people are using the SCADA or the historical historian for storing the data, they have n number of data sets, but they were not able to use that data properly, because manually you can't control that data. Like nowadays people are putting analytics at SCB level data. Earlier 4 to 5 years back they had the string level data with a 24 set of modules, but with that much size of the data they were not able to even correlate with the historical trend of it. Now I can easily say with a portfolio of, let's say, 2.5 gigawatt, I am, let's say I'm having 5 to 6 or 10 make of module, I can easily or any time can say this module is performing at that level of the efficiency or at that level of performance. This part of the country have more soiling and that part is having lower. In this particular month, this particular inverter may have some kind of efficiency higher or lower concern, because of the correlation of the data. So data was not a problem anytime. Maybe people are keeping in the hard drive or in the computer, or maybe they are reaching with the some archiving philosophy of the database. But the thing is to put those data nowadays on a cloud, where you can utilize and correlate that data to provide a good analytics, and which is like enhancing, and it is not at, even there is a lot of scope to further analyze and utilize. Yeah.
No, in fact, your answers have made me nostalgic, because while I was doing my bachelor thesis, this cloud motion vector, cloud ratio are the things that we had to deal every day. And the timeline you mentioned 4 or 5 years back, what was the monitoring being done? That was coincidentally the time I was wearing my entrepreneur hat and offering analytical services to solar plants. So thank you very much. I think before we go for questions, Shankransh, I just want to go for 1 minute across the panel, which I think will give a very good impression to our audience. All four of you have vast experience, and you have outlined various aspects throughout the contours of digitization and automation. Uh, I, what you call, with very good intent, I sort of try to keep the conversation on point of digitization automation. Although at the back of mind, all of us know that this is being spoken in the context of COVID. Now, I would like each one of you to spare 15 to 20 seconds and tell in one sentence why digitization and automation is important for solar industry, and what are the two words, adjectives, adverbs, whatever you think, are the ones that you think define or describe the digitization and automation need in the sector? So we'll start with Mr. Kanwarjit. So it's just one sentence in 2 words.
I think it is the need of the day, the only way we go forward. I'd adequately covered it in my talk. It's urgent and pressing.
And what are the 2 words you
I
think?
mean, we'll perish if we don't learn the lessons and evolve further.
Right. Miss Shaili?
Digitization in solar industry would be important for consumer involvement and for ensuring plant durability for longer years. That's I can say. Adjectives could be ease of use and durability.
Excellent. Mr. Piyush?
Yeah. So
The
I
word
think,
saint has already been taken, so you can't use that.
yeah. Yeah. So I have to say two new. Okay. So hello. Can I'm not
Yes,
not
yes,
able to
you're
hear.
audible. You're
Okay. 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 Sorry. So I think digitalization is a need of the hour now. So if we really want to take greener energy into future, this is the thing which we should do it first now. And the two adjectives which I would like to say is, so saint you are not allowing, so I can say, so it is the green way of taking the greener energy forward, and it is the most advanced way, greener and advanced. I'm not finding any other suitable word.
No, these two are good enough. Mr. Ashutosh?
Yeah, so digitization is anyway very important nowadays for any time for the industry to make it more efficient. And as nowadays we have a huge amount of installed capacity, so anyway to enhance the performance it is required. And as correlation of it, like predictive uh, maintenance or fault prediction and durability, these are the two things, because now like if the average operational cycle of the product is 3 to 4 years, so you have to have something which can tell you prediction of faults to make the uptime on a higher side of the plant.
Thank you all four of you. I think we fully agree with you. It is the need of the hour. We will perish without digitization, but we can cherish the fruits of solar with digitization, and it will give us durability and ease of doing business. And it is the green way, and of course, it is the future. With this, Shankran, shall we take some questions, or are we out of time already?
We are currently out of time, but maybe one. Let's take one question. I think Piyush would be the best person to answer this. The question is, Piyush, is what's the effort needed for integrating a data collecting system in an existing solar plant?
Okay, so data collection system, is it like if the guy is open, we can talk one-to-one. Does he mean the SCADA? Because SCADA is a system which collects the data for every site.
Yeah.
So if that's not the case, then yes, it is one of the challenge which we have to face, because data collection is the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the second
I
problematic
think,
thing is transmission.
I think question is more
Yeah,
related, as I understand, if it is like, if I correctly understand, it is more related with like how much efforts it will involve to get the data from the site location. So broadly, the answer is like it depends what is the architecture of that source which you are using as a SCADA at site. If that SCADA is having inbuilt feature of API support or OPC kind or Modbus TCP, then easily you can connect and take the data to your central location or to a cloud or a server. But that thing, if not available, then maybe additional challenge you need to take support from your integrator as well, which has supplied this data.
Yeah, thanks, Ashutosh.
Correct.
And to add to his point, to Ashutosh's point, I would say if you have some collection system, don't wait for a very hi-fi technology or architecture that will stream data to your cafe, to your office. Don't wait for that. If Excel sheet is available, you start using it, because ultimately architecture will come on the later stages once you prove that the data is very important and it can deliver results what you want. So start using it in whatever way it is, and then you can start building it, because it's a process. It will not happen in 1 or 2 or 6 months. It will take some time. That is
Correct.
my
And I would
my
just
point.
add one thing, adding to the urgent need of making data collection very synchronized. I think it is also important the granularity of the timestamp at which we are collecting the data, because sometimes in analytics, you move from collecting data every minute to collecting data every 5 minutes. There's a huge difference in the results that you could get, right? So when Piyush, you were talking about what kind of data we need to collect, I think we also need to make sure that different parameters could also give better results when collected at a more granular time stamp.
Yeah, true, very true.
Okay. Well, what we'll do, Subbu, is since we are already exceeded our overshot our time a little bit, we will take these questions and get it answered from the panelists and email it to everyone. I think Neeraj, if you could pull up the last poll, and I think that should be it. Yeah.
Why isn't there an option all of the above?
To make it obvious that it's not all of the above. Neeraj, that should be it. Thank you. Enabling remote decision making. Okay, that's almost 88%. Everyone feels that. So thank you all the attendees for very actively participating in the webinar. Subbu, you hosted the webinar in the most light and the humorous fashion that in comparison with the other webinars that we attend. So thank you for gracing this webinar. And again, I would like to thank Mr. Kamarjeet, Shaili, Ashutosh, and Piyush for sharing your experiences and taking out your valuable time today. So thanks a lot, everyone. And we really hope that everyone who attended took away a nugget or two back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.